Well, Chad was quick to suspend visas for US citizens after Washington's ban, and the African Union said that the extreme immigration shutdown undoes decades of diplomatic progress between the continents. Catherine V.
Welcome to Talk of Africa 360, your source for insightful news, analysis, and thoughtful commentary. If you value informed perspectives and fact-based reporting, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an update. Disclaimer: the content on this channel is based on reliable public sources and credible online information. It is intended strictly for educational and analytical purposes. We do not promote or endorse political violence, hate speech, or any form of discrimination. Our goal is to inform, not to inflame. Thanks for being here. Let's stay informed together.
Africa is rising. The winds of change are blowing strong across the Sahel, and Chad has just made that abundantly clear. In a decisive and symbolic move, the Republic of Chad has suspended visa access for American citizens just weeks after it demanded that US troops prepare to leave its territory. But make no mistake, this is about more than visas. It's about reclaiming dignity. It's about asserting sovereignty. It's about an Africa that's no longer willing to be dictated to by foreign powers. The backdrop: US visa bans and African backlash. Not long ago, the United States expanded a travel ban that included several countries, such as Chad, Iran, Afghanistan, and Haiti. Washington claimed it was about security risks and poor cooperation on deportation issues. But many African nations saw this as yet another example of Western arrogance, a reminder that the old colonial mindset still lingers in the way Africa is treated on the world stage. Chad's President Mohamed Idriss Déby didn't remain silent. In response, his government announced a ban on visas for American citizens. It wasn't just a countermeasure, it was a bold statement. Chad refuses to be treated as less than. Africa taking control. Over the last few years, there's been a noticeable trend. African nations are reassessing their military relationships with Western powers. One by one, countries in the Sahel are telling foreign troops to leave, choosing instead to take charge of their own security. This isn't just strategic, it's symbolic. It signals a break from dependency. Chad's decision to challenge the presence of American troops fits into this broader regional realignment. US troops at risk in Chad. According to US officials, Chad recently sent a letter to American military representatives threatening to end a security agreement that governs the status of US forces stationed there. The letter warned that US personnel might soon have to vacate the French military base in N'Djamena, where most American troops in Chad are based. Interestingly, the letter wasn't delivered through the usual diplomatic channels. It was typed in French and handed over in a way that raised eyebrows in Washington. Some US officials believe it could be a bargaining tactic aimed at extracting more favorable terms. Currently, the US has fewer than 100 troops in Chad. While the government hasn't formally ordered them out, the future of the security deal remains in flux. A regional domino effect. Chad's move comes shortly after Niger terminated its own military cooperation with the US, demanding the withdrawal of over 1,000 American troops. That decision disrupted long-standing counter-terrorism efforts in the region. In response, the US began preparing its exit strategy from Niger, following discussions with Nigerian officials. That development signaled a growing shift away from Western military partnerships across the region. A new geopolitical landscape. Enter Russia and China. As American influence recedes, other powers are stepping in. Russia and China are now deepening their relationships with African nations. China, with its expansive infrastructure investments, has long been increasing its economic footprint. Russia, on the other hand, is offering security partnerships, arms deals, and diplomatic backing in return for access to critical resources. Russia's support isn't just transactional, it's strategic. African nations represent a large voting bloc in international forums like the United Nations. Securing alliances here gives Russia global leverage. Chad and Russia, strengthening ties. President Dubai's recent trip to Moscow is a case in point. During his meeting with President Vladimir Putin, Russia praised Chad's efforts to stabilize its government and expressed readiness to deepen cooperation. This includes potential military and economic partnerships, reflecting Russia's growing ambition to expand its role across Africa. While Chad remains cautious about removing French troops entirely, it's clearly widening the door for Russia. As instability rises within the region, N'Djamena sees value in diversifying its allies. Russia's military strategy in Africa, Russia's military presence is already substantial. Through private military companies like the Wagner Group, it has entrenched itself in Mali, the Central African Republic, and Libya. These mercenaries often receive payment in natural resources, gold, diamonds, or oil, and serve to extend Moscow's reach without direct state involvement. Even Burkina Faso's transitional leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, has strengthened ties with Russia, including reopening the Russian embassy after decades of closure. The aim is clear: build partnerships on equal footing. So where does this leave the United States? With a diminishing troop presence and waning diplomatic goodwill, the US faces serious questions about its future role in Africa. While American forces have long supported counterterrorism efforts, critics argue that Washington's military-heavy approach has overshadowed other important aspects like trade, education, and development. More African nations now see the US as out of touch, focused on strategic interests rather than genuine partnership. What's next for Chad? At this point, it's unclear whether US forces will be fully expelled from Chad. The outcome will depend on the tone and content of upcoming negotiations between both governments. But one thing is undeniable: Chad has sent a message, loud and clear. Like its neighbors in the Sahel, it is choosing to prioritize sovereignty and national interest over foreign control. This isn't just a diplomatic dispute, it's a turning point. A new era for Africa. Chad, like Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, is breaking away from old dependencies and forging new alliances. These moves are not driven by hostility but by a desire for autonomy. Pan-Africanism today is not about ideology alone, it's about action. Concrete, bold, and unapologetic, the question now is, who will follow Chad's lead? Are we witnessing the dawn of a new chapter in African independence? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you believe in an Africa that defines its own path, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. The future of the continent is being written, and this time, Africa holds the pen. So we ask you, is this the beginning of a new era of African independence? Should more countries follow Chad's example? Let us know what you think in the comments. And if you believe in a free and self-determined Africa, like, share, and subscribe for more stories about African unity, global justice, and the reshaping of world power. Because this time, Africa writes its own story.
As reactions continue to pour in from across the continent, one thing is clear: Africa is demanding respect, sovereignty, and accountability. Was this just a diplomatic misstep or a deeper sign of shifting global alliances? We'll be watching closely. If you found this story important, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real, unfiltered African news. This is Talk of Africa 360, telling the stories that matter.